Lyra adjusted her armored gloves, her claws tapping softly against the metal of the spacecraft. She had trained her whole life for this moment. As a commander of the Arvathi fleet, she was expected to lead her species to victory against the humans, a race rumored to be unpredictable, resilient, and shockingly resourceful. Her mission was simple in theory: land on the planet, confront the human defenders, and demonstrate the superiority of Arvathi's strategy. In practice, she had no idea what to expect. The planet below spun slowly in her viewport, a green and blue jewel surrounded by a thin ring of clouds. Reports described it as primitive, yet dangerous. Humans had held their ground against other species before, and Lyra's intelligence officers claimed that their ingenuity often outmatched more advanced technology. She took a deep breath, feeling a strange mixture of excitement and tension in her chest. The spacecraft shuddered as it entered the atmosphere. Lyra focused on her training, repeating every tactical maneuver she had memorized since she was young. Her heart raced, not from fear but anticipation. To her species, humans were often unpredictable in ways no simulation could capture. To face one in person was both thrilling and terrifying. Her craft touched down in a clearing surrounded by tall, sharp-edged mountains. The surface was rough, dotted with jagged rocks and small rivers glinting under the alien sun. Lyra's sensors picked up movement ahead, nothing mechanical, just life signs. Her antennae twitched as she scanned. Humans. She expected soldiers, weapons, and a fight that would test her leadership. Instead, what she saw surprised her. A small group of humans moved carefully across the uneven terrain, carrying no visible weapons. Their movements were coordinated, but unlike any military formation she had studied, they were helping others, humans, and even small alien animals, across a difficult path. Lyra narrowed her eyes, confused. "Where are their defenses?" she muttered to herself. Every report had warned her about traps, ambushes, and guerrilla tactics. But here, there were only humans helping each other. One of them, a tall figure with dark hair, paused to lift a heavy stone off a blocked path, allowing a smaller companion to pass. They smiled at each other, a simple human gesture she did not understand, but it carried a sense of pride and joy that felt alien. She had expected aggression, not cooperation, curiosity, not battle readiness. Lyra felt her claws tighten, then loosen. She adjusted her visor and activated the communication array. "Arvathi Command, this is Commander Lyra. I have visual contact. Situation unusual. Advancing carefully." The humans continued without noticing her. One of them knelt beside a wounded creature, a small alien with scales that shimmered in the sunlight. The human bandaged its wing carefully, whispering softly in a language Lyra's translator could not fully decode. She could not understand the words, but she understood the care. They were saving a life, even when danger could have come at any moment. Lyra's mind raced. This was not the behavior of beings who feared defeat. They seemed fearless in their own way. She observed them for hours as they built makeshift shelters, shared food, and helped each other climb steep ridges. She had been prepared to strike to prove the Arvathi's strength, yet here was something she could not anticipate. Humans did not act from power alone. They acted from empathy, courage, and intelligence. Night fell, painting the sky with streaks of purple and gold. Lyra's sensors registered the humans settling into a small clearing surrounding a campfire. They spoke softly, sharing stories and occasionally laughing. It was an odd sight for a battlefield commander. She hid in the shadows, analyzing them. Her tactical mind saw patterns in their cooperation. Every action was purposeful, every decision balanced between survival and helping others. She remembered her own training. The Arvathi way was to dominate through fear and force. Yet the humans dominated in a different way, through respect, unity, and quick thinking. Lyra felt a strange sense of admiration. She could not deny it. Suddenly, a loud noise erupted from the forest beyond. A pack of predatory creatures charged toward the human camp. Instinctively, Lyra prepared to intervene. This was her mission, after all, but she watched in astonishment as the humans reacted. They did not panic. They moved quickly, using the terrain to their advantage. Stones, logs, and clever traps slowed the creatures. One human climbed a tree and guided the others in an unexpected flanking maneuver. Within minutes, the predators were driven back, some retreating, some captured unharmed for later study. Lyra's antennae twitched in disbelief. Not only had they survived, but they had done so without weapons superior to hers, without high-tech defenses, relying purely on intelligence, coordination, and courage. She felt a stirring she had never felt in battle before: respect. The humans returned to their campfire, tending to minor injuries and sharing water. Lyra's mind raced with calculations and reports. Every tactical assumption she had carried for her entire life had been challenged in just one day. Here were beings she had expected to fear her, to fight at every turn, and instead she had witnessed their strength in compassion, creativity, and determination. Hours later, as Lyra prepared to retreat to her ship for the night, she found herself lingering. She could not bring herself to act aggressively. Instead, she observed them silently, noting how they communicated, how they shared tasks, and how they solved problems that would have taken entire Arvathi squads hours to manage. Lyra's thoughts drifted to her mission, to the reports she would have to send back. How could she describe what she had witnessed? Humans were supposed to be simple, primitive, and easily intimidated. Yet she had watched them turn chaos into order, danger into opportunity, and fear into courage. In that quiet, starlit clearing, Lyra realized something important. This encounter was more than a simple reconnaissance mission. It was a test, not of human weakness, but of human strength. And in this first part of her journey, she was beginning to understand that humans were a force unlike any her species had ever faced. Her final scan of the camp registered one simple truth: humans, even when cornered, were remarkable. And for the first time in her career, Lyra felt a twinge of uncertainty. Not fear, exactly, but a questioning of everything she had believed about superiority and strength. Tomorrow, she knew, would bring more challenges. But tonight, she would watch and learn. The humans were not her enemies, she realized. They were teachers. And Lyra, commander of the Arvathi fleet, had much to learn. As she retreated into the shadows, she whispered softly to herself, "Perhaps I underestimated them." The sun rose slowly over the rugged terrain, casting long shadows across the human camp. Lyra, hidden among the rocks, watched silently as the humans began their day. Despite the danger of their surroundings, they moved with purpose and efficiency. Some gathered water from the river, others tended small gardens they had planted, and a few carefully repaired their shelters from the previous night. Lyra had expected humans to panic, to quarrel, or to act selfishly in a harsh environment. Instead, she observed cooperation, creativity, and patience. Even when faced with scarcity, they shared resources equally, ensuring that no one went hungry. Their unity was astonishing. Her mind raced with questions. How could such fragile beings survive in a world filled with threats? How could they, with no advanced weapons or overwhelming strength, thrive in situations where entire Arvathi squads would falter? Lyra decided it was time to approach more closely. Observation alone would not answer her questions. Cautiously, she descended from her hiding place and moved toward the humans. She kept her movements slow and deliberate, not wanting to startle them. The humans, absorbed in their tasks, did not notice her at first. Lyra could see the intensity in their eyes, the focus, determination, and quick thinking that had allowed them to survive. She had expected fear, but instead, she found courage, patience, and ingenuity. One of the humans, a young woman with short hair and a calm demeanor, noticed movement from the corner of her eye. She turned slowly, her gaze meeting Lyra's. For a moment, Lyra expected hostility, a shout, or even a spear. But instead, the woman smiled gently, not with fear, but with curiosity. Lyra froze. She had not expected such a reaction. Humans, she had been told, were unpredictable, yes, but this level of composure was beyond what her species had imagined. She decided to speak. "I mean no harm," she said, her voice modulated to be clear in their language. "I am Lyra, commander of the Arvathi fleet." The young woman raised an eyebrow, seemingly assessing Lyra. "I'm Myra," she replied calmly, "and you are far from the ships of your kind." "Why are you here?" Lyra hesitated. She had prepared a report for her commanders, a report full of assumptions and predictions, but how could she explain what she had seen without sounding naive? "I came to observe," she said finally, "to understand how humans survive." "I have questions." Myra studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Questions are welcome," she said. "Sit, we will answer what we can." Lyra sat cautiously, unsure of the human custom, but following the gesture. The camp continued around her, with humans working in silence but always aware of their surroundings. Lyra watched as they communicated with subtle gestures and concise words, each action purposeful. She realized that much of their strength came from their ability to work together seamlessly, to anticipate each other's needs, and to act decisively under pressure. "You are different from what I expected," Lyra said finally. "Your kind does not fight in the way my species does. You do not rely on weapons or force or fear. Yet you survive, you thrive." Myra smiled, not arrogantly, but with a quiet pride. "We survive because we have to. We thrive because we work together. Our strength is not in one person, but in all of us supporting each other. We have learned that survival is more than defeating the enemy. It is caring for each other, solving problems, and thinking ahead." Lyra absorbed her words. She had been trained to value strength above all else, but she was beginning to understand that the human way of life was built on principles her species rarely practiced: empathy, collaboration, and adaptability. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath them. Lyra's sensors picked up movement. A large creature, much bigger and stronger than the ones from the previous night, was approaching. The humans noticed it too, and yet there was no panic. Myra turned to Lyra. "We will handle this. Watch and learn." Lyra moved closer to observe, fascinated. The humans split into teams, each performing tasks with precision. Some distracted the creature, while others set up barriers and traps using natural materials. A young boy climbed a tree and dropped weighted nets at the right moment, slowing the creature's advance. Lyra watched in awe as humans, without heavy armor or advanced weaponry, used strategy, coordination, and ingenuity to protect their community. The battle was brief but intense. The creature eventually fled, confused and trapped by the humans' clever arrangements. Lyra felt a rush of admiration. The humans had not merely survived, they had turned danger into an opportunity to demonstrate their intelligence and teamwork. After the threat had passed, Lyra approached Myra cautiously. "I have never seen anything like that," she admitted. "Your species, you are remarkable." Myra shrugged modestly. "We do what we must. There are dangers everywhere, and we have learned to face them together. Survival is a team effort, not a test of strength alone." Lyra reflected on her own people, the Arvathi. Her species valued power, speed, and dominance above all else. Fear often ruled their tactics. Yet here were humans, weaker individually, yet stronger in ways the Arvathi had never considered. Their strength came from intelligence, compassion, and ingenuity, a combination that was difficult to predict and impossible to ignore. The day passed with more lessons. Lyra observed humans hunting for food, tending to injuries, and even teaching each other new skills. They communicated through patience and guidance rather than orders and fear. Every human contributed in some way, showing a remarkable understanding of each other's strengths and weaknesses. At night, as the campfire flickered, Lyra reflected on her mission. She had come expecting to conquer, to demonstrate the superiority of her fleet. Instead, she had witnessed something far greater. Humans, in their simplicity, possessed qualities that her species often overlooked: courage, creativity, resilience, and a deep sense of morality. She realized that this encounter was no longer about a mission. It was about learning. To truly understand humans, she would have to set aside her assumptions and approach them not as an enemy, but as a student of their ways. Myra noticed her contemplation and spoke softly. "You are thinking too much about what we are not. Think instead about what we can do together. Strength is more than force. It is understanding, cooperation, and cleverness. If you want to survive here, you will need to learn this too." Lyra nodded, a strange feeling stirring within her. Respect, admiration, perhaps even inspiration. She had never felt this way toward any species before. Humans had changed something in her perspective. A shift from seeing others as mere opponents to recognizing their potential and value. The stars shone above, and Lyra stayed by the campfire, watching the humans laugh, share stories, and help each other in small but meaningful ways. Every action was purposeful, every gesture significant. She began to take notes mentally, planning how she might use this knowledge, not to destroy, but perhaps to learn, adapt, and grow. For the first time in her career, Lyra did not feel the rush of battle. Instead, she felt curiosity, respect, and a quiet determination to understand. The humans were not merely survivors. They were teachers, innovators, and examples of what strength truly meant. As the fire crackled, Lyra whispered softly to herself, "There is more to power than force, and these humans, they may be the strongest I have ever met." The night passed, and with it, Lyra's mission began to shift. No longer was it simply a reconnaissance mission. It had become a journey of discovery, of humanity, ingenuity, and the unexpected strength of compassion and courage. Tomorrow, she knew, would bring new challenges, but she was ready, not to fight, but to learn. And in learning, she would discover that the humans, small and seemingly fragile as they were, had lessons to teach that could change her forever. The morning light spilled over the rugged terrain, painting the mountains and valleys in shades of gold. Lyra stood on a rocky outcrop, her eyes scanning the human camp below. After 2 days of observation and cautious interaction, she felt a strange mixture of anticipation and purpose. She no longer viewed humans as an unknown enemy. Instead, she saw potential, strength that did not rely on weapons, power, or fear, but on ingenuity, cooperation, and courage. Today, Lyra decided she would test herself, not to conquer the humans, but to understand them fully. She descended carefully, her presence hidden at first, and approached the camp. Humans were already awake, moving with purpose. Myra noticed her almost immediately and gave a small nod, a silent acknowledgement of Lyra's presence. The others continued their work, gathering food, maintaining shelters, and caring for injured animals. It was a scene of quiet diligence, yet beneath it was a current of unshakable determination. Lyra stepped into the clearing. The humans stopped, instinctively cautious, but their fear was tempered by familiarity. They had seen her before and understood that she was different from a typical Arvathi warrior. Lyra spoke clearly, carefully. "I am here to learn, not to harm. I wish to understand your methods and your strength. Will you allow me to participate?" Myra studied her for a moment, then nodded. "If you truly wish to learn, you must try everything. Strength is not just in force, it is in thought, teamwork, and courage. Come, follow us." Lyra hesitated, then joined the humans. She observed as they split into teams to carry out their morning tasks. Some gathered firewood while others tended small gardens. Lyra tried to help, but at first she struggled. The humans moved with subtle coordination, anticipating each other's needs. Lyra realized that her Arvathi training had taught her to dominate through power, but here she needed patience and cooperation. "Watch the flow," Myra instructed. "We each know what to do, but we also watch for each other. Strength comes from knowing yourself and your teammates." Lyra nodded, slowly adapting to the rhythm of the camp. She began to see the logic in their approach. When one human lifted a heavy log, another positioned it exactly where it was needed. When water was scarce, they rationed it carefully, ensuring no one went thirsty. Each decision was small, but combined, they created a system of resilience and efficiency far beyond what brute strength could achieve. Later, a new challenge arose. A sudden landslide threatened to block the humans' main path to the river. Rocks tumbled down, some large enough to crush a person. Lyra froze, instinctively ready to use force to remove the obstacles, but Myra stepped forward calmly. "Watch," Myra said. "Force alone will not save us." The humans worked together, positioning logs, ropes, and stones to divert the landslide and create safe passage. Lyra observed closely, noting the cleverness of their planning. They used the natural environment to their advantage, predicting how rocks would fall, how water would flow, and how to secure the area without heavy equipment. Lyra realized that humans did not need overwhelming power to overcome challenges. They relied on intelligence, observation, and collaboration. Each member contributed according to their skill, and mistakes were corrected immediately through communication and adaptation. By the time the landslide settled, the humans had secured the path with minimal damage and no injuries. For the first time, Lyra felt a profound respect for these beings. They were not warriors in the traditional sense, but their resilience, creativity, and courage made them formidable in ways the Arvathi could not predict. The day continued with more lessons. Lyra observed humans treating injured creatures, solving complex problems with limited resources, and teaching each other skills with patience and clarity. She saw how they celebrated small victories, encouraged one another after mistakes, and shared resources selflessly. Their strength was not in domination, but in unity, adaptability, and moral courage. As the sun began to set, Lyra realized she had learned more than she had in her entire Arvathi career. She felt something she had never experienced before: admiration, humility, and a desire to grow. Humans had shown her that true strength was not measured by weapons or fear, but by intelligence, compassion, and the ability to inspire others. Suddenly, Lyra's sensors detected a new threat, a small but aggressive band of alien raiders approaching the human camp. Their ships descended, weapons charged, ready to attack. The humans noticed immediately, yet there was no panic. Instead, they moved swiftly into action, using everything they had learned to prepare defenses. Lyra stepped forward, her instincts torn between Arvathi duty and her newfound respect for humanity. The humans looked at her, not with fear, but with expectation. Myra approached, her eyes calm. "We can handle this, but we may need your help," she said. Lyra nodded, understanding the responsibility. She joined the humans, lending her strength and knowledge, but following their strategy rather than imposing her own. Together, they set traps, created barriers, and coordinated positions to maximize their chances. Lyra was impressed by the humans' adaptability. They learned quickly, adjusted tactics on the fly, and supported each other through every step. The raiders attacked with force, but the humans' clever strategies and coordinated teamwork turned the tide. Lyra's own abilities enhanced their efforts, but it was the humans' ingenuity that proved decisive. Rocks toppled to block advancing vehicles, makeshift barricades forced raiders into predictable paths, and human scouts used the terrain to outmaneuver their foes. Within hours, the raiders were repelled, retreating in confusion and defeat. Lyra stood amidst the aftermath, her chest heaving not from exertion but from amazement. The humans had survived and triumphed, not through raw power, but through courage, intelligence, and unity. Myra approached her, placing a hand lightly on her arm. "Do you see now?" she asked. "Strength is not just physical, it is knowing how to use your mind, your skills, and your heart. It is about inspiring others to be their best. This is why we survive." Lyra nodded, a smile touching her lips. "I see now. I have been wrong to think that power alone defines superiority. Humans are extraordinary." That night, the campfire burned bright as humans shared stories, food, and laughter. Lyra sat among them, no longer hidden or observing from afar. She had become part of their community, a student of their ways, and a witness to the strength of humanity. She reflected on her mission. What had begun as a reconnaissance mission had transformed into something far greater. She no longer sought to conquer the humans, instead she sought to learn from them. Their strength, resilient, intelligent, compassionate, had challenged everything she had believed. In the days that followed, Lyra continued to train alongside the humans. She participated in their daily routines, learned their strategies, and observed how they faced danger without fear. Each day deepened her respect, each challenge revealed new lessons. She discovered that humans could adapt to almost any situation, using creativity and cooperation to overcome obstacles that would have defeated her species alone. Eventually, Lyra returned to her fleet to report. Her commanders expected a detailed account of human weaknesses, but instead, she presented a different perspective. She spoke of their courage, ingenuity, and resilience. She described how humans had faced threats far greater than themselves and had survived and thrived through unity, intelligence, and compassion. Her report caused confusion and debate among the Arvathi leaders. Some dismissed her observations as exaggeration, but Lyra stood firm. She had seen it with her own eyes. The humans' ability to inspire, adapt, and endure was unmatched. Lyra knew that her encounter with humans had changed her. She had come to the planet expecting to assert dominance, but she left with a new understanding of what true strength meant. Humans were not the weaker species she had assumed. They were a force of innovation, morality, and courage that could shape the future in ways her fleet had never imagined. Before departing the planet, Lyra turned to Myra and the others. "Thank you," she said. "You have shown me what strength truly is. I will carry this knowledge with me, and perhaps, one day, we can build something together rather than fight." Myra smiled, a quiet, knowing smile. "Strength is in what you do with what you learn. Remember that, Lyra. And perhaps one day, others will see it too." Lyra watched the humans return to their routines, their laughter and collaboration filling the camp. She realized that the greatest power was not in fear or force, but in inspiring courage, ingenuity, and hope. And in that moment, she understood why humanity was destined to endure, to grow, and to inspire not only themselves but others, even those who had once come to fight them. As her ship ascended into the sky, leaving the humans below, Lyra reflected on the lessons she had learned. She knew that the Arvathi would never fully understand humanity through reports or intelligence alone. Only by witnessing their courage, creativity, and compassion firsthand Could anyone truly appreciate their strength? Lyra's heart swelled with respect and admiration. The humans had not only survived, they had thrived not through domination, but through qualities that her people often overlooked. And she, a commander of the Arvathi fleet, had been forever changed. In the vastness of space, Lyra knew one truth with certainty. Humans were remarkable, and their strength was not something to fear, but something to honor, learn from, and perhaps one day follow. The stars stretched endlessly before her, and Lyra whispered softly, "Truly, humanity is the strongest I have ever known."